Well, I told you yesterday we were going to have a special guest, special big show here on a Tuckheads Tuesday, and I wasn't kidding. It's Dan Orlovsky, who has quickly become one of the best analysts in the business, 12-year veteran NFL quarterback. He's been on the show before. You can check him out on Twitter at Dan Orlovsky 7. I knew he'd be a stud. I was telling everybody for years, and he is exactly that. And Dan, I wanted to dive into these games one last time with you, take a sneak preview as well of the Super Bowl, just kind of get your original thoughts. And I guess my first question about the Rams, I'm gonna get at you here a little bit about the Rams and Sean McVay, because I know that you're a big fan. If he's so bright, okay, and such a great coach, what was up with him trying to have Goff audible in the first half in the Superdome? What was the deal with that?
Well, first of all, awesome to be with you, man. Here's the thing. So you're trying to communicate what play you're trying to get to, and that's a big part of their offense. You still want to, no matter what the environment is, control the game, whether you're on offense or on defense. And that the great strength, or one of the great strengths of that offense, you control the game. That's why they don't get into a gajillion formations, but simplify some formations and do a bunch of stuff off of how you present. And so you want to be able to go do that. And no matter how loud it is, everyone knows there's mechanisms to go do that. Was the noise, I guess, probably louder than they had anticipated, especially early on? Sure. I was one of those people that actually felt that they handled it remarkably well, because I saw a bunch of people on social media kind of being like, man, the Rams are so surprised. But it's not just a one-step process with handling the noise. And so I get like, man, McVay, how did you not have a better plan? But at the same time, what the option is, hey, we're not going to be who we are. We're just going to call a play and hopefully it works. Or, no, this is going to be really hard and it'll be difficult, but we also have tools in place to make sure that we can handle it. And for the most part, they did.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm just kind of busting your chops. I mean, they came from behind down 13-0 in 2010 in the Superdome to win, so they deserve all the kudos that go along with it. And obviously, I think people forget, you were there in training camp. Was that last year or Goff's rookie year?
That was last year, so 2017, going into his second year.
Yeah, so you were there. There's a perception, Dan, that Jared Goff, I think Sunday might have gone a long way towards getting that, erasing this perception. But there's a perception that Jared Goff is basically a puppet, and that McVay is telling him not only the play, but they get to the line early so McVay can give them pointers and say, look at this coverage, make sure you're watching this guy, and talks to him all the way up until the 15 seconds. Do you think that that's unfair? And what are your thoughts on McVay's usage of the headset communication?
Yeah, so it's obvious that McVay talks to Jared before that 15-second cutoff. It's obvious that they get to the line of scrimmage and try to figure out what the defense is doing, and he probably gets them into a certain play. I'm not saying this is an all-the-time thing, but a certain play here and there, and gives them tidbits. I find no problem with that, because it's twofold. One, Sean McVay is realizing, I really want to win games now, and I can help our team win. Like, Jared Goff is an incredibly young kid that is still very much so learning. So if you're getting into the line of scrimmage and you're telling Jared, hey, let's run this play, don't forget, if you see the safety lean that way, let's work that way. Let's work opposite. That's okay. And that's coaching your young player through wins. The challenge for coaches with young quarterbacks is you've got to teach them, and then they have the burden of trying to go win. Well, Sean McVay, kind of utilizing what's given to him tool-wise, is going, I can coach this kid and through winning. I can coach him while winning. And that'll be something, listen, if Jared Goff was 6th or 7th year in the NFL and 5th or 6th year in that system, then that probably would not be the case. but Sean McVay is just utilizing it. And listen, he answered, there was no more questioned player going into championship weekend than Jared Goff. Everyone pointed to, man, Jared Goff, he's the weakest quarterback. And I was one of the people, honestly, I was like, I'm telling you, this kid's ready for this moment. The quarterback and this kid is ready for this moment. And Jared Goff answered the bell tenfold.
You're exactly right, and I was one of those people, Dan. I really was. I thought he was.
Rightfully so. I mean, rightfully so.
No, but you know what? I think part of it is, too? I almost think Jared Goff has Eli Manning syndrome in the sense that his facial expressions do not give off the belief that he is an alpha male ass kicker. You know, like you look at him and it's probably the same thoughts people had about Eli before Eli actually won a Super Bowl. He just doesn't look like he's got the dog in him when you look at his face.
You know what? I didn't think of Eli, but it's a phenomenal comparison to just those body languages and those mannerisms in a way. It's almost spot on. I will say this, and this is something that I've felt like this way about Eli for a while, and I believe it's one of the catalysts or a big thing why he won those 2 Super Bowls in those moments is Eli seems to me has this ability where he cares enough not to care, where he cares so much about what's going on, and he's so locked into being in that moment that he's able to care enough about it that he doesn't get overwhelmed by it, that he doesn't get consumed by it, or that it becomes paralyzing to him. And it almost looked like Goff had that. I mean, when you look at down 13-0, your second pass of the game gets picked on a bad break where quarterbacks, when that happens to quarterbacks, you're like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, that it's going to be one of those days. Your best player on offense is having a really bad day, and you're playing against a Hall of Fame quarterback and a really good coach. Like, you're sitting there, and absolutely everything's stacked against you, and you just watch Goff and go, man, Jared doesn't look to be overwhelmed. He doesn't look to be consumed by it, and it is very much so watching Eli. You don't know if you're like, do you want to be good or does it not matter to you? That's the feeling you get by watching him almost.
I think that's a really good point. It looks like, Dan, before I move on to the other game, it looks like he is a terrific natural thrower of the football, but that's more your category than mine. It just looks like it's easy for him. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Literally took the words out of my mouth. That is my number one physical trait that I look for in a guy. Does it look natural? When you watch Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees and Brady and Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford and so many good to really good to great quarterbacks, you could just watch, you were born to throw a ball. Like, you were born to throw. And so Jerry has that very natural, elastic, pliable throwing motion that really helps him. Just when you have that ability, it allows you to make throws under different body positions and also work on other parts of your game. And I know that Jared deserves a ton of credit for kind of what happened and how that game went. But a great thing for me, Ross, is when I watch that game, what stands out to me is you watched a football team understand we're one game away from the Super Bowl. We've got to be able to change. And just watching the defense, the Rams defense, and 2 things that they did were, we're going to double Michael Thomas a bunch, and they doubled Michael Thomas a bunch. And then they started to knock Kamara off his routes. It was literally Wade Phillips sending a message to Sean Payton, your 2 best players are not going to beat us. If somebody else beats me, I'll tip my hat to you and we'll go home. But those 2 guys aren't going to beat us, and that's a huge reason why they'll be playing in the Super Bowl.